Streaming again. Yo, if you are online, let me know. So, this is the local Lord Librarian, and I'm just running the stream for a little time. Not sure if anybody's going to show up in the stream, but that's okay. We're going to have a discussion about, some questions from the suggestion area. So, Canute, talking about some optimistic view of the Lords from the refugee scenario. The truth is, the Lords knew to an extent that they would not be able to really capture the city that they originally owned. So these guys were the rich aristocrats that kind of funded the expedition teams within the various areas of the Frostland. And when shit went down, a few of them got lost within the Frostland. Some of them from a ship that got trapped in the ice, and others from the radial mass. It's interesting to find out that these guys were actually, they were actually working on securing resources for their eventual return. It's similar to another story, or as I would call it, trying to get my mind around it. It's similar to another story called 2012, the movie about the end of the world. Some of the characteristics and views about this are very similar to that. And so when I was looking into it, I'm saying these rich people, the lords, have some of the same characteristics where the government gives them a large amount of money and they are able to, gain control over an area in the Frostland. Yo, what's up, Shadow Knight? You can join the conversation if you want right now. Just go on to the Discord page and jump into the Frostpunk Radio chat. I'm live. Yeah, so when the lords, to an extent, made the decision to invest in the construction of the generators and other areas within the Frostland, that made things easier for the government to go on in financing and funding the other expeditions that they were working on in terms of getting resources and anything else that they might have needed to keep going. Then after that, everything goes chaotic and we have no idea what happened. All we know is that some of the information gets scattered throughout the Frostland, and you have to play the game a certain way to actually see certain things. You have to see certain things by exploring the Frostland to actually find. Really? That's good. That's alright, man, as long as you are not eating soup, it's good. Traditionally cooked meals are much better than soup, Shadow Knight. I can't disagree with that. Oh, man, that's funny. Sure, man. Whenever you're ready, you can jump on. Yeah, so a lot of the times when people are going through the Frostland, they encounter things that the average man would be like, okay, alright, this is just a story about two guys dead in a cave. But the guys dead in the cave could actually be the individuals that actually told you that, look, there was a storm incoming. So the winter home pre-expansion is the builder's mode, from what I'm understanding, because it released within the time that they were talking about it. It was kind of interesting, and it was a bit of a disappointment because we were expecting something else, but maybe I am wrong and the devs have something else planned. This game has an extremely high rating and it has lived up to its expectations from, various people thinking about, oh, this is just a trailer. What is the game going to be like? And it's exactly what we need. Games like these right now are important to the survival of the gaming industry, and it's also important as showing other individuals what are some of the best practices as a if you LOLs. That's a good one, man. That's a good one. I think there should be, but we have to wait until the gods of Frostpunk see it that way. But that would be an interesting law. Good one. Yeah. A lot of food would be good, but maybe we could mix the soup in with something else, like, I don't know, dumplings or some other additives. But what I was thinking is that instead of sending the hunters out to just hunt for specific animals, I'm thinking that the hunters should be able to carry back resources in terms of animals, and then you can house them in an animal pen of some sort, adding to the game's diversity in food. And so with that, just texting the wife a while ago, with that having the diversity in terms of food sources, as Shadow Knight said, lavish meals. It would make people eat more, and it would also, balance out their diet. So you have a little bit of untamed meat, and then you have some vegetables, and then you have meat that is tamed. So, and that kind of resource will actually require you to maintain a certain heat level within the facility so the animals don't die, and they might consume some of the resources in terms of food. So you might need to build the greenhouse, that's what I call it, in order to actually be able to produce these animals. And maybe 11-bit studios could add in a Steam core to this facility if it fits the scenario and the narrative. Yes, that would be good. I'm thinking a breakfast law. So these dudes that don't like to eat, that fixes that situation where everybody has to have a meal in the morning before work. Because they say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So that could be one thing that the 11-bit Studios team could actually look at. Where the other day about the exoskeletons was also very interesting, and a comment by Hesham, I hope I didn't butcher this dude's name, about the endurance mode, about having nobles invading us, is very interesting. Yeah, like chickens or birds, because in the winter home scenario, there are actually birds within the Frostland itself. So if there are birds within the Frostland, we could probably capture and tame them and use them to, as I would say, lay eggs for us that we can fry with fire. And then we could probably have swine, or maybe there is some form of pig or groundhog that managed to survive, because they're forested areas. So what could happen is that we could have areas that have forests within them, and because they're forests, yeah, that would fix the little bug that's exactly what I'm going after. Yeah, persuade. You don't want to use the word force. That creates a large amount of discontent when they realize what you're actually trying to do. But I mean, who would get angry with being forced to eat? Well, a lot of people probably would, you're forcing these dudes to actually eat food. Who the hell would like that? But some people would. Back to the reproductive thing that we were talking about the other day. I'm saying that reproduction, if it's managed properly, or if it's actually implemented, it would actually make the game, in terms of the endurance mode setting, be much more realistic. Because unless we're going to have a continuous influx of refugees, the lore is going to be like very kind of weird. Because where are these individuals actually going to be coming from? You see, even though you already know that there are people within the Frostland that got lost, even though the earth is massive and large, it would take them a very long time to travel from such far distances, and it would even take them longer to actually see another city. As you can see with the new home scenario, where once the beacon went down, or once they became lost within the Frostland, they couldn't find the city, and well, to an extent, those guys were actually spared. I know that's kind of messed up for me to say, but these dudes were spared from death. I mean, imagine if they actually encountered or made it to Winterhome. They might have been dead too. Captain forcing them to work, and then they get left behind. Oh, we're here, what's up? So, we know that Winterhome was seen as the beacon of hope within the Frostland, but it wasn't as advanced as New London. New London seemed to have all the tech and all the upgrades, or maybe they just never thought about some of the items within it. These new mechanics actually allow us to explore other areas and other dependencies that the cities themselves might have on external features. The problem is with this is that what could actually happen is that we could have the outpost itself as a as a staging area for like the creation of certain machines, like how the Romans were able to create siege engines from certain buildings. So the outpost gets an upgrade where it allows you to build certain stuff. And when you build these items, you are able to, expand your reach in terms of facilities. So there's a forest nearby Winterhome. Let's say Winterhome, for example, or New London, and you want to gather some resources there. You send the scout to survey the area, and there's a freaking truck driving by. And in the process of you surveying the area, you find out that there are animals, wild animals within that forest, and there's trees and other things that you can probably set up an outpost. Yeah, that's exactly what I think would have happened. They would probably reach there, and then everybody's like leaving, and they're like, what's going on? And they say, boom, the generator blows up. Exactly. Yes, that's exactly what would happen. You hit it on the head. And so with the outpost having additional features that allows them to, deviate from just being a staging area, from gathering and setting up facilities only to pick up, but allowing you to send citizens to other areas to investigate them and use them for other purposes, would actually kind of make the game more interesting and pull you in longer. Building your city alone within the Frostpunk universe, just the fact that you're able to build a city and manage it kind of gets you lost in the game already. It already has that Anno 2070 vibe, or that Anno vibe, where you want to keep playing. But I'm saying, let's take this a step further. Let's expand out our reach in terms of getting people to not just play longer, but have their own generated experiences. So when I say having their own generated experiences, I mean some of the decisions that one individual makes causes the game to change or causes things to vary. So you might see a city in this scenario, but then in the next one, it's something totally different, or it's something that the other players might never experience. So you might encounter, let's say, let me just go out of this world, and let's say you encounter an unknown individual within the Frostland walking, extremely tall, strong and powerful individual, but you can't see him. From a far distance, you see him walking from some location, and then he moves away with some resource or something, and there might be blood around the scene or something like that, and you have to investigate, and then you find out that there's a creature lurking on the outskirts of your city, or there are some cannibals somewhere, and you have to use force to get rid of them. So there could be an element like that. With an element like that, it might also encourage people to play a little bit longer or want to see what the outcomes are for this particular setting. So just with that kind of look in terms of the development of that scenario could actually increase the game's playability. Going back to Winterhome now. When Winterhome was constructed, according to the lore, the city... what you saying? If you fail election, you are no longer a captain, and the captain takes lunch. Oh, that's an excellent idea. That's an excellent idea. But then you'd have to sign the diplomatic law. So you'd have to not sign the, extreme fanatic dictator leadership law. You'd have to be a diplomat. And so you might actually be able to, yeah, that's possible. But you'd have to sign such a law. So it's a plausible idea, but you would have to sign the law, and the devs would have to see how the mechanics in terms of that would actually work. Why would I want to make somebody else? That could actually be another way of dealing with the scenario, instead of you actually being kicked out of the city or banished. They can actually remove you from office like that, and then you'd be dragged away by some security officials like the Faith Keepers or the guards, and then maybe there could be a small mini game within that, forcing you to actually try and gain back power, or you're the opposing party trying to win, and there are other effects that might occur with you no longer being the head of the city. We can see a similar scenario like this with the Total War Attila family tree, where certain people have more influence than you, and if you don't manage it properly, they might rebel against you. So that Shadow Knight was a very awesome and interesting idea that you brought up and mentioned, and that's really cool. I see that actually being plausible. If you're new to this live stream, make sure you subscribe to the local lore librarian, and keep informed about the lore. And if you're really up to having a conversation with me, you can jump into the 11-bit studio Discord. It's in the stream's description. What you saying now, man? Oh, interesting. That could be another idea. That's a yes. If you don't play your cards correct, they could actually pull a spoof on you and then force you out of office that way. That's not a bad idea. I mean, that by itself would make people think twice about certain decisions and the difficulties that discontent can actually bring. Because discontent can be used in multiple ways if you know what you're doing. I actually skipped breakfast to do this, because I love the community so much. I'm gonna have my breakfast later though, in the evening probably, or sometime later, Some of the images, looking through them, are actually very, 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 very unique and interesting. I mean, whosoever is making the artwork for this game, you've done a freaking good job. Keep it up. Keep up the artwork. Keep going, man. Keep going. I love it. I love it, man. I love the artwork. There are some other things that I might also say might actually need to make their way into the endurance mode. Apart from just having the winter homes or whatever it is, apart from just being able to continuously play and the storm and babies being born, there might also need to be new vehicles. I saw where 11-Bit Studios did something really nice with Winter Home, adding in that evacuation building. That evacuation building should have two options. It should be an evacuation center and a trade hub, because they've basically opened up trade hubs. So here's my thinking now. Let me look and see. My thinking is that we all know that, you know, we can gather resources from the Frostland and we can trade with other cities, because 11-Bit Studios did that in the Arcs. We were actually trading resources with the new Manchester City. The only difference is that it was a one-way transaction. There was no to and fro. And the fact that you have to wait a few days for the transportation vehicle to reach a point. Well, yeah, that could be another thing that could happen, because after society is able to survive a cataclysmic kind of event, it should reach a point where, you know, there are new forms of social threats that affect your society, because faith alone might not be able to, you know, control the society. You know, good one, Shadow Knight. Faith alone can't really make the society go. You know, in every complex modern or, let's say, early 19th century society, there's a mixture of church and law. So the captain is going to have to be able to balance between law. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You got that right. Yeah, they can try to force you out of office by stealing food. But the train thing, I was thinking about it, because they actually sneak in some mechanics, and these mechanics, by putting them in, shows us that they're actually possible. Just the mere fact that the 11-Bit Studios team, decided to put in that emergency evacuation system, it means that we can now more than just trade or escape. I should say more than just escape the city and go to the generator site. We could actually use this small vehicle as a means of trading between other cities. So what I'm thinking is that with the New London scenario, since as it's in a cave, we would need to build a garage for it. Yeah, we might need to build a garage. So building variety or variants. And in building a garage, we could also build a larger garage on the outskirts of the city that we could probably visit, and we could have a land dreadnought in there, and then we could customize the land dreadnought based on the needs, and it would take like 100 days or 50 days to go from one location to the next. I gotta say this. Earlier I was saying that land dreadnoughts, they need, just scratching my back, land dreadnoughts need a certain amount of resources and coal, to go certain locations. Currently, we do know that land dreadnoughts, to an extent, actually need about 5,000 coal and 5,000 wood, 5,000 food, and 9 steam cores to be refitted to carry people. So what dreadnoughts could actually be are like Frostland exploration vehicles for further expeditions, almost like a Mars rover or a ship to an extent. A land ship is what I see those vehicles as. At Fruit Loops for breakfast. Something substantial, you know, not soup. But with the creation of the land dreadnoughts and the use of them in a means other than just as, you know, as an escape vehicle or an end game scenario, these vehicles can actually serve a greater purpose within the game. And if they serve a greater purpose within the game itself, apart from being your only escape and the end of a scenario, it will attract even more people to the Frostpunk universe. If you see where I'm going with this, because knowing that there is a massive machine that you can use to drive around the Frostland, stop anywhere within the Frostland, and have a procedurally generated area that you can explore, it kind of makes you think about the game differently, you know? It makes you think about the game differently, and with you thinking about the game differently, you would more than likely tell more of your friends to buy the game. And when more people buy Frostpunk, it becomes even more profitable to the developers, and they'll be able to add even more features to the game. With more features being added in and more content and more people purchasing it, it becomes more attractive. It reaches the level that, you know, a city skylines would be, where you never know what could happen and you can continuously play, build, and explore. So when the endurance mode launches, guys, don't be surprised if it's the most played mode for Frostpunk, or if you start seeing people doing more than 152 hours, you see like in the 1000 area or the 500 hours, because the endurance mode is the most anticipated mode. Oh yeah, well, the truth is, the social problem between the engineers, or you're asking, what about, okay, the problem is that engineers to an extent are highly skilled individuals, and because they're highly skilled, they're treated favorably. That's how some workers might look at it, and that might make them angry, and so in the long run, you might have to settle a dispute like what occurs with the lords. So, you know, that's a good idea, man. I'm gonna call you Tak. I hope I didn't butcher your name, but that's a good idea for a question, as I would say. What else you want to ask? Oh, by the way, you can talk to me live on the 11-Bit Studios Discord, Frostpunk Radio. The only problem with the engineers, or there being an issue or a social problem between both groups, is that the two of them work together in a sense. They sleep in the same houses. They are sometimes married to each other, and to an extent, you know, if trained properly, the roles could actually be changed, because engineers can do unskilled work. So there would not necessarily be a social problem, but where your question comes in is if the engineers are housed in better facilities. See where I'm going, man? That is where it actually could become a larger problem. But social problems between different classes could actually become a new mechanic within the game. Yeah, that's true, Shadow Knight. You're adding to the other dude's point. I mean, the fact that you put the engineers over the average man would make them angry. And so his question about what about the social problem between engineers and normal workers would come in within that, making decisions that favor the engineers over the other groups. So engineers are given more resources, or they're allowed to live in other areas that are more secure than the average worker. So that by itself would create a massive conflict between the two groups, and then you'd have to resolve the situation and prevent discontent from rising. What they could also do to that is they could also put it in a sense that if you don't resolve the situation, 5 engineers or 10 regular workers might die. See where I'm going with it? So it's a beautiful idea that this dude came up with, and well, not idea, question I should say. The normal workers though are unique in a sense, that normal workers can become scouts, but engineers can't become scouts. And I see scouts to be a little bit more skilled than engineers themselves. That's what I'm thinking. The engineers are not as skilled as the scouts. But then you could train an unskilled. I guess unskilled labor is like a blank slate, and there should be the ability of you to change the skill of individuals, so they can move from being unskilled to skilled individuals. So maybe there could be a law signed and a school building added in. Yes, you're adding to his point even more. So a civil fight between both groups, and you're forced to either support the two or disperse the crowd. That's how the lore might, or the Lembit Studios team might actually look at it. That's one of the ways that they could actually do it. So the two groups are fighting, and then in the process of them actually fighting, one of the groups either gets support, or you support none of them, disperse the crowd, or you say we will resolve the situation peacefully, and then it forces you to build whatever facilities to be within the same line as what the regular or the other half is experiencing. So let's say one is living in bunk houses. You have to upgrade everybody to regular houses, and that's one of the only ways you can resolve the situation or prevent a civil war within your city. If not, you could end up with a situation like Winterhome, where they eventually torch the entire city and the generator kind of blows up, and then you have to fix it, and then there's a whole nother mechanic behind it. So just the fact that, these scenarios can lead to different stories. By the way, thanks, dude, for asking that question. Thanks for asking that question. Just by you asking that, it opened up another area that we could actually explore in terms of, where the game could actually go. A lot of people are looking forward to it, and a lot of the suggestions within the suggestion area are interesting to me. Especially the exoskeleton thing, and this other guy, Canute, was talking about the different buttons that could be used to represent resources. It was a bit complicated, but it was a good idea. If you're new to this stream, we're talking about lore, ideas, concepts, and other stuff. And if you're interested in actually coming on air live and talking with the local lore librarian, you can do that by clicking the link or copy and pasting the link within the description of the stream and getting on to the 11-Bit Studios Discord page. When you get onto it, scroll all the way down until you find the voice chat Frostpunk Radio. Yeah, Tak asked a great question. Man, I'd give that dude a thumbs up for that. That was awesome. That question is the best question I've got so far out of the many. One of the best, I should say. Because there are a lot of good questions that people have been asking. You guys also should try and see if you can find Nansen within the Frostland. He's somewhere out there. He's a very important individual. Look him up though. Guy is very talented. But there are other things within the Frostland to an extent that are actually being explained slowly. The destroyed vehicle that you see that was used to transport people has actually been explained within the Winterhome scenario. It's the same vehicle that we used to get to the Land Dreadnought, and it was actually used for a lot of things. We also know that Land Dreadnoughts, to an extent, also have the ability to act like trains without tracks. So they have a coach behind them that they use to carry humans, resources, and what else would those things carry? Probably they would also be used to carry steam cores and generators themselves. So these massive machines were used to set up the generator sites, and they might also be able to carry smaller vehicles. We also know that there were also airplanes or blimps that were flying around the area, but somehow they crashed, maybe due to lack of resources. And if automatons can work by themselves, I'm thinking that air vehicles can also do the same. So we could have automatized air hunters in the future. It's a good idea. You can drop it in the suggestion box and give the local lore librarian a shout out. That would be nice. Oh my god, man. This game is doing really good though. But if your friends are new to this, or if your friends are, or if you're playing this and you know you have some friends, you should introduce them to it. Tell them about the story. Tell them about the fact that you are able to change the destiny of people, or you can actually cause harm to these people. You know, tell them it actually tests their ability to be a leader. Because, I mean, sometimes when I play this game, it kind of makes me cry. You know, leaving 40 crippled people behind with an exploding generator. That is the most evil thing I think I've ever done in Frostpunk. But what are your experiences? What are some of the cruel things? Oh, I can fix that easily. That's an easy fix. Sorry about that. Yeah, what you saying now? I fixed it. So, I'm saying that, you know, what are some of the crazy or evil things that you guys have actually done to some of the people within your cities? What crazy things? Or what have you done that has rubbed you the wrong way? Anything. It could be even just making people drink soup forever. Or, I don't know, sending some skulls to their doom. Or killing people, execution style. Just post them in the comment section, or if you wanna, you can jump on to the live stream. We're gonna be going for the next 3 to 4 hours, I think, if I can last that long within the Frostland. So, there are other things that I also like about Frostpunk, and it's related. Thanks, man. It's related to the story itself. The story of Frostpunk is a very beautiful one, where when you're in the game, that is dark. That is dark. Faith cannibalism. Oh my god. That is evil. That's one of the most evil things I've heard thus far. Faith cannibalism, or forcing children to work in certain areas and letting them get crushed by some building or some item. Ooh, the crazy things that we have done within this game. But anything else you've done? Build every house. A steam. How would that work? You gotta tell me how that one's gonna work. That's a lot of resources. Tell me how you managed to pull that one off. That is extremely crazy. I think it's gonna rain by me. That would be really nice though. Some rain would be really lovely right now. Kidding. So tell me, how did you manage to do that, man? The steam hubs thing, building all those steam hubs in around every single house, or a steam hub for every house, is one extremely challenging thing. So I would just write the text, how? How did you manage to do that? The other thing that I actually find a bit worrying though is the fact that we were never really given an idea of whether or not what we were playing is the new builder scenario, because we didn't build much. What we mostly did was reconstruct the city itself, but we didn't build anything new apart from the evacuation building and the generator repair station. But the fact that we have the generator repair station, it means that we could, to an extent, blow up the New London generator and fix it. But the question now is, where were the generators constructed? I'm thinking that the generators were built in a Let's say a steam facility or factory. Yeah, you would. You would run out of coal quickly, Shadow Knight. I've never actually done it myself or tried that, but I tried putting steam cores in every single arc. What do you call those arc facilities? So I put a steam core and a steam hub in all of those facilities. And then after doing that, it kind of drained most of my resources away. But I was still able to recover in the long run. And after recovering, I decided to change how I did certain things. Some of the images from the Frostland might kind of scare people. I mean, we were talking the other day about the fact that sometimes you might actually pass some bodies within the Frostland, or you might go to Winterhome and you might see some individuals locked away within a facility. Oh, somebody just jumped on. Damn. I'm gonna use that image, Shadow Knight. And I see where you have the gen on overdrive. That's some crazy stuff, bruh. Stream is going down for a bit, but I don't see where there are any issues with it, so there are no problems right now. But what I can tell you is that Shadow Knight shared an image with me of him actually creating the multiple steam cores and using them to an extent for every single building. There's a lot of steam. I could barely see anything. But that was an interesting concept. I'm going to look it up and drop it in a few minutes. Give me a minute to get this thing up. There we go. This is Shadow Knight's image. And I'm seeing a whole lot of steam cores. OD in terms of steam cores. Yeah, the stream might be giving some small issues, but we should be back up and running with it. If you're experiencing some difficulties or if it's lagging a bit, the stream should be fixed in a few minutes. Gonna reload the page. Yeah, Shadow Knight, like, that's a lot of resources. And I'm sure that eventually the gen actually shut down. Did it? It's just my question I'm asking. Low in terms of outputs. Whoa, just give me a whoop. The stream is acting up. That's not good. Be right back. Oh, we're good again. 2 people disappeared because the stream was acting up. Damn, that's not good. Yeah, so I'm saying that's a lot of resources, and I'm wondering how much coal you can actually extract from the... Just a little bit of pollution. That's a lot of pollution right there, what I'm looking at. That's a whole... But it looks so cool. Just the fact that you have so many steam cores going, it's cool. But it might be extremely hot. We're having a bit of difficulties in terms of the stream, but I'm gonna fix that soon. Yeah. So if you put in so much resources, what happened in the end? Did you end up deleting them? Stream's going down for a bit. Quality spikes, but that's okay. Stuff happens sometimes. Yeah, I mean, but if you did that during the storm, it should be a little bit, what's the word I want to use? If you did that during the storm, I mean, by the time the heat temperature falls again, there should be like regular degrees, because that based on the amount of steam cores you have going, that should be regular temperature for the average man around the world. But the problem is them adjusting to that kind of temperature, it might kill some people. But that's a necessary thing, a necessary evil, as I might see it. A necessary evil that we could probably work with. Really? Interesting. Just looking at some Google Notes. So anything else? Apart from the fact that you are able to play after the storm to an extent, there are other things that actually happen within the Frostland that people actually look at and ask a lot of questions about. Like, what is this game about? Who or what caused the deep freeze? We have the answer to some of these questions. If the live stream is acting up, it's going to be working in a few minutes. I fixed the issue a while ago. Not sure what was causing it, but we're back up and running, clear as crystal. So, the Frostland to an extent, I'm just going to talk about it in full detail right now. The Frostland to an extent is a very large and expanded area. When I say it's large and expanded, I mean that there are a lot of things within it. So there are creatures that we've never seen before, there are animals that roam it, and the question that everybody asks is, how is it that these animals are able to survive even when the temperature falls to, like, let's say -0 or -100? Now, the real answer to that question is that the Frostland to an extent is more than just a little area. Well, what's going on? It says the stream is offline. Oops. Ooh, what's going on here? Did the stream just go off a while ago? Yeah, it went down. Yeah, Frostland, the creatures in the Frostland are able to actually not just... Be right back. Yo, what's up, man? Happen within the Frostland that make people ask some weird questions. Like, how is it possible for animals to live in there? How is it possible for us to actually move around within the Frostland? How is it actually possible for us to actually explore certain areas? And where do all the animals go when it freezes? The truth is that when the Frostland freezes over, or to an extent, when things occur within it, that's the Discord thing jumping on and off. But I'm saying that when things actually freeze over, jump out of this for a bit and jump back in. When things freeze over, animals tend to huddle together. What do I mean by animals tend to huddle together? I'm saying that animals are capable of actually finding ways to not just live within the Frostland. Yeah, I know, it's acting up. It's acting up, I figure. So I'm just waiting to see if it actually fixes itself. I'm gonna come out of Discord. I came out of Discord and I'll be back in it again to see if it's working. Time's going down on me, I guess. But yeah, as I'm saying, they huddle together sometimes. And when they huddle together, okay, what is going on here? I know. Acting up, which is not good. So what's gonna happen in a few is that I'm gonna jump out of this and the live stream for a few minutes, and I'll be back. Let's see what actually is going on. The live stream will be up, but what I'll do is I'll be doing some fixes to it. So I'll be right back. Whew. So just give me a few minutes. I'll be right back, guys. Let me check Discord now. Take some time to get these things running. Sometimes there are errors that might occur. Checking. Alright. So it's going on and off. It's still going on and off. Connection. Debug that. So I'll be right back.